she only wanted to earn some extra overtime pay, but this girl encountered a terrifying presence, and when she saw the skinny, bone-like creature, she panicked and ran out of the company. But when she reached the entrance and turned back, she saw an even stranger sight. The story begins with a job interview. Gemma, who had just moved to Los Angeles, came to a company for an interview. However, before she could even hand over her resume, the receptionist told her the positions were already filled.
Well, do you think I could leave my resume with you just in case?
Yeah, no. Doesn't really work that way. Sorry.
And this wasn't the first time Gemma hit a wall today. Just 2.5 hours earlier, she had interviewed at several companies in a row, but none had accepted her. Feeling disappointed, Gemma went to the roadside, leaned against the wall, and covered her face as she cried. Gemma was a recent graduate from a drama program, and to pursue her dreams, she left home and came to the bustling city of Los Angeles. She originally believed she could become a big star with her acting skills, but when she arrived in the city, she discovered that acting jobs were very hard to find. In order to survive, she had to look for other work, but because she had no experience, she was rejected everywhere. If she couldn't find a job today, she wouldn't even be able to pay next week's rent. Just when she was feeling down, a sudden loud noise came from nearby. Gemma turned her head and saw it was the trash bin not far away. She thought someone had thrown garbage from above and didn't pay much attention. As she tried to compose herself and prepare to look for another job, she noticed a recruitment notice posted on the wall nearby. With a try-it-and-see attitude, Gemma walked into the company. The woman who greeted Gemma was named Catherine, and she was the company's supervisor. From Catherine, she learned that the company was a wellness facility specializing in dream therapy. Gemma's job was simple: sit in the monitoring room, watch the cameras, and if anything unusual happened, notify the staff at the front desk. Although the job was easy, at least half of the shifts every month were overnight, but as compensation, the center paid triple overtime. Even more surprising to Gemma was that the pay was weekly, and if she worked 5 days a week, she could earn an extra $600 in overtime pay. Hearing Catherine's explanation, Gemma was overjoyed. For her current situation, this was a blessing, and without hesitation, she agreed to take the job. With her work secured, the exhausted Gemma returned to her rented apartment, and as soon as she arrived, she lay down on the bed and fell asleep. The next evening, Gemma arrived at the center at the agreed time. Her colleague Noah gave her a quick rundown of the job process. The company's main business was to conduct psychological therapy through dreams, specifically for people with brain trauma. The system would build a beautiful dream in a virtual world based on the client's needs, and then the client's consciousness would be implanted into the system through a sleep pod. Hearing Noah's explanation, Gemma felt amazed. She hadn't imagined technology was this advanced, that even sleeping could be a form of therapy. But Noah told Gemma that the clients were still using the first-generation system, and that the center also had a new system which could complete the therapy in just 9 hours. However, this new system was still in testing and not yet available. Because of different treatment cycles, each client would wake up at different times. Gemma's job was to watch all the rooms from the monitoring station, and if a patient woke up in the middle of the night, she had to notify the on-duty staff immediately. During work hours, Gemma could not fall asleep, and if she was caught being lazy, not only would she lose her pay, she could even face punishment. After giving her the instructions, Noah left the center. Gemma turned on the monitors and began her first night of work. Since it was her first day, she worried a patient might wake up, so she didn't dare slack off, keeping her eyes on the screens all night. Soon Gemma began to feel bored and restless, and to pass the time she started playing with her phone. Her first shift ended quickly, and at 6 in the morning, Olivia, the next shift's worker, arrived at the center on time. After finishing the handover, Gemma dragged her tired body back to her apartment, but just as she lay down, she suddenly received a text message from her friend Brooks. Brooks said a film crew was preparing a new project and wanted her to come audition in a few days. Reading the message, Gemma instantly perked up despite her exhaustion. To prepare for the audition, Gemma took out her notes from her luggage and kept practicing the acting skills she had written down. During her next shift, while Gemma was reviewing her notes, Noah suddenly appeared behind her. It turned out the center had received a new client yesterday, and Noah needed to design a custom dream for him, so tonight he would be working overtime with Gemma. Noah opened his computer and entered the client's request. This client wished to be a wealthy politician. He input the client's needs into the system, and the computer instantly generated the corresponding scenes. First a private jet, then a luxury yacht. Watching the display on the screen, Gemma was full of wonder. But just as she was absorbed in observing the system's creations, Noah suddenly snapped a picture of her. The next moment, a woman who looked exactly like Gemma appeared inside the system.
Delete it. How did you do that?
You know, I could leave this here, and in 6 weeks, this guy would wake up madly in love with you. He'd see you on some street corner, and he'd try to remember where he knows you from, whether it was a random passing, or maybe you guys sat next to each other on a flight recently.
It turned out that every staff member had a virtual version of themselves in the system, which was designed to keep clients from getting lost during their dream therapy. And if one day Gemma quit the job, her virtual likeness would be deleted as well. Hearing Noah's explanation, Gemma didn't think much of it, as long as the center didn't use her image for something wrong. Early the next morning, after finishing her shift, Gemma hurried to the audition her friend had mentioned, and she began performing according to the script's requirements. Because she had prepared so well, Gemma's performance won the approval of both the director and the writer. Although the feedback was positive, the director didn't give a definite response and only asked her to go home and wait for news. But Gemma waited for several days, and the film crew never reached out. She thought she had been rejected, and as she began to wonder if there was something wrong with her performance that day, a hand suddenly appeared on the surveillance monitor. Gemma thought a patient had woken up, and she rushed to the corresponding room. But when she entered, she saw no one there. The client was still lying peacefully in the sleep pod. Had she imagined it? Gemma didn't think much of it, but just as she was about to leave, that strange figure gave Gemma a fright, and she hurriedly stepped back out. The moment she stepped outside, she bumped into Olivia, who had arrived for her shift, and Gemma told her what she had just seen. But when Olivia entered the room, there was nothing unusual inside. Olivia assumed Gemma was just too tired and suggested she go home and rest. Looking at the empty room, Gemma felt dazed, wondering if she really had imagined it. Back home, the exhausted Gemma collapsed onto her bed and didn't wake up until evening. For some reason, she felt her fatigue was unusual, but she thought it must be because of consecutive night shifts. But the strange events didn't end there. Gemma went to the kitchen, preparing to drink some milk to relax. As soon as she opened the bottle, a foul smell hit her. She assumed she had bought expired milk and poured it down the drain. But while pouring, she noticed that the plants she had been caring for over the past months had withered. Gemma was completely confused. She clearly remembered watering them just 2 days ago when they were still fine. So how could they already be dead? When she turned to check the date, she realized it was the 21st, and she finally understood she had lost track of time. Because of the constant night shifts, her body clock was completely reversed. Even her memory was affected. It had actually been a whole week since she last watered the plants. And what was worse, she realized her complexion didn't look good. Long nights really were taking a toll. To avoid more problems, Gemma came up with a plan. She started living on a routine and exercised daily. After a few days, she looked much healthier. One evening while on duty, Gemma was writing her shift notes when she accidentally found a camera inside a drawer. Curious, she turned it on and discovered it was full of Noah's selfies and videos. While she was absorbed in looking at them, the door suddenly opened, and Catherine and others entered,
Room 9!
escorting a female patient. From Noah, she learned the system had suddenly shut down, and the woman receiving treatment had been stimulated by the malfunction, which caused damage to her brain. Seeing the woman being taken away, Gemma realized that this so-called dream therapy carried hidden risks. But she didn't know that the truly frightening events were only just beginning. Later that night, while on shift, Gemma vaguely heard strange noises coming from the corridor. Following the sound, she saw that one of the doors was open. She assumed a patient had woken up, and just as she was about to check, Noah suddenly stepped out of the room.
Gemma, you know what? I'm actually glad I ran into you. I've been meaning to ask. Did you touch my camera?
Gemma didn't think much of it. After all, she didn't understand much, and once her shift ended, she left the center. But as soon as she returned home, Gemma received a call from her friend Brooks. Brooks told her that on Friday night there would be a gathering where several directors and writers would attend. He encouraged her to prepare, since it was the perfect chance to meet them, and if a director liked her, she could land a role in their project. But Gemma had to work that Friday and had no time to attend. Yet she didn't want to miss the opportunity, so she called Olivia to ask if she could cover her shift. Olivia was also busy, but she gave Gemma an alternative solution. Hearing her words, Gemma grew worried. If Catherine found out, she could lose her job. But Olivia reassured her, saying all the patients were in deep sleep and nothing would happen. She herself often skipped like this. And since Catherine almost never checked the duty logs, Gemma only needed to copy the previous day's records into the current day's log to get by. Before Gemma could respond, Olivia hung up the call. That Friday, Gemma went to the center as usual. After confirming everyone had left, she secretly turned on the computer, planning to copy yesterday's duty log into today's. But while searching the files, she accidentally opened a video that showed Noah with a woman. At first, Gemma thought they were just meeting in private, but the longer she watched, the more she felt something was wrong.
I thought you were on.
In a rush to get to the party, she stopped the video. She copied yesterday's log into today's file, changed clothes, and headed out. With Brooks introducing her, Gemma met some directors and writers, but while chatting casually with an actress named Max, she overheard her mention the wellness center.
They said I was number 221. I went into a coma and I almost died in there.
Hearing Max's experience, Gemma felt unsettled. Because she was worried about being discovered, she didn't stay long. After changing her clothes, she hurried back to the center. But when she arrived at the entrance, she was shocked to see Catherine already there. Because she left her post during work hours, Gemma was fired, and feeling frustrated, she could only turn back to her apartment. But while washing up, she suddenly heard a rustling sound from the living room. When she came out, she found the television was still on. However, just as Gemma turned it off and was about to leave, she glanced back and saw something in the corner. A strange figure startled Gemma, and thinking it was a thief, she quickly hid in her bedroom. And that figure also noticed her, turning the doorknob as if trying to come in. Luckily, Gemma had locked the door, and when the intruder found the door locked, he chose to leave. After calming down, Gemma immediately called the police. Since there were no cameras nearby, they only filed a report and reminded her to stay cautious. Yet when she returned from the police station, Gemma found her apartment door wide open. Inside the room was a complete mess, and she thought the thief had returned. At that moment, she saw someone standing in the living room. In a daze, Gemma felt herself being pulled into a strange room, and faintly she heard Noah's voice. It turned out the intruder wasn't a thief at all, but Noah. And the reason he kidnapped Gemma was because of that day's log file. Noah had been secretly experimenting on patients, and the screams Gemma heard in the corridor that night were from those experiments. Realizing Gemma had discovered his secret, Noah decided to silence her. Before she could react, Noah injected something into her arm. Gemma felt dizzy, and soon she lost consciousness. When she opened her eyes again, she found herself on an operating table, with no one else in the room. She walked out and realized she had been taken back to the wellness center. But eerily, there wasn't a single patient inside. Then a strange sound came from behind her. A bizarre creature frightened Gemma, and she ran out of the center in a panic. But once outside, she discovered everything was pitch black. The streets and buildings were gone. Before she could react, she turned back and saw the wellness center vanish right before her eyes, leaving her terrified. Just then, shouting came from behind, and Gemma turned to find herself in a hallway where a man was calling her from the doorway. When he saw Gemma, he ran toward her excitedly. He kept saying there was no time and dragged Gemma to the other side. When Gemma regained her senses, she realized she was now on the set of a famous talk show. The host warmly congratulated her for becoming a big star, announcing that 2 shows she starred in would air the following week. Hearing the host's words, she was overwhelmed with excitement. But just as she was about to sink into the illusion, she suddenly remembered something.
I'm sorry, because I shouldn't be here, because... Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna go.
She hurried out of the studio, and the moment she left, the building disappeared into thin air. Gemma finally realized she had been placed into the dream system by Noah, and everything around her was fake. She tried desperately to wake herself up, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't. Just then, a restaurant appeared not far away. Gemma remembered this place. It was where she had worked back in her hometown. Suddenly, her boyfriend Hunter stepped out of the darkness. He apologized to Gemma, hoping to be forgiven. Gemma had always dreamed of becoming an actress and moving to the big city, but Hunter never supported her. They quarreled fiercely over it and eventually separated. Looking at him now, Gemma felt guilty. But when she turned her head, she saw the people around her had no faces.
Me to someone I'm not, okay?
Didn't I used to die? There's nobody. Give up.
I almost died.
Gemma, who am I kidding?
The shocking sight made Gemma regain her clarity, and she slowly stepped back. As she did, Hunter and the restaurant vanished. When she turned around, she found the creature was back, limping toward her. This time, Gemma didn't run. Instead, she walked toward it. She realized the creature was the embodiment of her fear, and that by facing it, she could wake up in the real world. The moment she got close, the creature turned to ash and disappeared. When Gemma opened her eyes again, she was back in the operating room. She limped out, but walking through the corridor, she found all the patient rooms were still empty. Just as she thought she might still be trapped in the dream, Olivia appeared at the front desk. Seeing Gemma awake, both Olivia and Noah were stunned.
Gemma?
There's a hard drive,
What is this?
top right shelf. You should take a look.
After hearing Gemma's warning, Olivia checked the hard drive on the desk and found proof of Noah's secret experiments. Having escaped the dream, Gemma immediately called the police, and Noah was soon arrested. When she returned home, Gemma received an invitation from the film crew. Her audition had impressed them, and the director wanted her for the lead role. She was filled with joy, but had she really escaped the dream? Many believed Gemma was kidnapped by Noah and placed into the dream system. But was that really the truth? Do you remember when Noah snapped a photo of Gemma during her shift? From that moment, Gemma had already been sedated, and the woman she saw on the monitor was herself. This also explained why she saw the creature on her third day at work, because the creature was her inner fear. From this, we can see that Gemma had already been inside the dream system, but the system was unstable, often showing problems, such as the sudden creature, the spoiled milk, and the withered plants. Because of these flaws, Gemma realized something was wrong, and with her strong willpower, she tried to escape the dream. After noticing something was amiss, Noah implanted Gemma into the company's newly developed second system. In truth, the Gemma who woke up never really did. She was trapped in the second system. This was proven when she left the operating room and found the patient pods empty. But the dream system was so real that Gemma had no idea. And at the end of the movie, even though the news said the center had been shut down, its wall still had a job notice posted. Clearly, the center was using recruitment as an excuse to lure in test subjects. That was the full story of the 2025 American thriller Alaska. Overall, the concept of the movie was quite intriguing, so if such a system existed, would you choose to live in a dream? That's all for today's video. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.